Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lease Queries Podcast, Accountant's Angle, a podcast where our lease accounting experts are going to answer your most burning questions regarding various accounting topics and upcoming potential changes to not only the lease accounting standards, but other complex accounting areas. I'm your host, Jason Parker. I'm a senior alliance manager here at Lease Query, and I am an active CPA in the state of Georgia. Today, I am lucky enough to be joined by Lease Query's newest technical accounting consultant, Alaina Wagner. We're going to talk through her experience of actually implementing ASC 842 at a private company prior to joining Lease Query this year. So we're going to get some key takeaways from Alaina, and we'll probably also learn a few lessons as, of course, all of you looking to adopt this year can probably learn some things from someone who's done it before. So Alaina, to get started, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody and give a little bit of background on your experience in accounting.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jason. So I am Alaina. As Jason said, I'm new here at Lease Query. I've been here for a few months now, but previously I was in corporate accounting where I was in a senior accountant role there, just managing that lease process, and then also some other month-end close type things, and then some other big projects. But now I'm happy to be here.
We are also happy that you're here. The first thing I want to dig into, of course, the big reason why we have you on our initial episode for this series is that you actually adopted 842 at the private company. So give us a little background on what the transition process looked like. Maybe more specifically, how long did you feel the full process take? And what did you all actually utilize from a technology standpoint to assist with the adoption?
Yeah, so we had an ERP system that had like a module that was built into it, but of course it was not built by accountants like we are, so it was a little more difficult to use. But that transition process really started in July, where we started working with IT, we started working with facilities to kind of just get a grasp on all of our leases. We were tracking the deferred rent previously, so we did have the majority of leases, but you always have to look at, those embedded leases, stuff like that. So it really started in July with the gathering the information process, and then also just looking at what our ERP would do for us. And then from there, our ERP system, you had to enter the information, but you really had to understand 842 and kind of like what the background was there. And just the guidance with 842, it was not necessarily as easy as Lease Query where you enter the data, it spits everything you need out. You really have to understand what you're doing. And so from there, we dug into what exactly do we have to do, practical expedience, borrowing rates, all of those different things. And then just testing the software, reconciling the leases, all of those fun things.
I agree. Fun is definitely the correct word there. I think it's interesting that you bring up too, when we talk about ERP systems and the need to have comprehension on 842 to utilize them for compliance. Someone like myself, I'm an active CPA and I've spent quite a bit of time in the accounting industry. Even when I started at this company, I had to spend 6 to 8 weeks digging into the lease accounting guidance to even become what I would call an expert. But I probably spent more time over the next 3 to 4 months really ironing out my skill set related to 842. So I do think it's important for the audience to understand that the lease accounting standard, there's much nuance to it, and having a solution in place that actually walks you through that guidance as opposed to just providing availability to comply is important. So I guess moving into some of the difficulties you found, whether it relates to the technology or not, what you say would be like the hardest aspect of the transition, and maybe coupling that with on the go forward, what do you think is the most challenging aspect of complying with 842 for your old company?
Yeah, so the hardest part about transition was honestly probably just reconciling everything, making sure the software was producing everything correctly. And then of course, with that comes the understanding. So just understanding what we were trying to do and, understanding what the journal entry should look like and stuff like that. That was probably the hardest part. Took, as you said, several months to really get a grasp on that and feel like, if someone came up to me, I could explain it easily in layman's terms. And then the hardest part after would probably be just the day two accounting. We had a couple, modifications, and then we had an impairment to those leases that our ERP system didn't handle. So those had to be done manually. So just the day two accounting that comes into it, I think we